Tottocharizze here, back again with a new monthly plan with me video. Today we are setting up my March 2025 bullet journal. We have a long video ahead, so let's begin setting up my March bujo spreads. So if you're planning along, grab your notebooks and let's get creative together. Springtime is almost here, so I wanted to do a flower shop theme. You may be in a different season, so if you need more ideas, seasonal or not, you can see a bunch of my previous theme setups after watching this video. We will mainly use watercolors for this month's setup like always. We are using a number 6 round brush and a detail brush for the whole painting process. And as usual, you will find the supplies and links I'm using in this setup on the video description below. You can absolutely use any watercolor set you have, but of course, if you prefer other media, whether it's paint markers, colored pencils, or anything, you can illustrate these in your own style. Our monthly setup starts with a cover illustration, and we are painting directly on the notebook page. Using a separate watercolor paper is great too if you want to work with your paints on a paper that is designed for it. But we are not limited to that. We can also paint on our notebook page, but we just need to do it using a different technique or control. So the first thing we like to do is prepare some initial colors on our palette. We have Crimson Lake and Rose Madder mix, June Brilliant and Vermilion, a mix of Ultramarine Deep, Crimson Lake, and Composed Blue. I actually have Violet here, but I forgot. But this can also show that you can do different color combinations to achieve these colors if you happen to have a limited color palette. Then we also have Ultramarine Deep alone and Permanent Yellow Deep. I'm using Holbein watercolors, by the way, so these may have a different name depending on the brand you are using. These colors are what we are using for the flowers, but feel free to use a different set of colors. So we start by painting our blooms. This is because it's easier to surround them with leaves later rather than squeezing the flowers in between. And we want each variant or color to have a lot of blooms, so we're just doing that by painting these little blobs of color by gently tapping the tip of our brush. We are not really trying to make these look so detailed. When painting nature-related subjects, especially in clusters, I think it's easier to do them in loose style. So we're just painting all the flowers first. We also don't need to be super specific with the placements, but you can map them out by sketching the arrangements using a pencil so they don't look too scattered. We can also combine two colors to add some shadows. When that is done, we are mixing our colors for the leaves. We are using a mix of Permanent Yellow Deep and Tierra Verde on a separate well. We are using our brighter shade of green as the base layer or the part that light hits the most, then our next shade on the shadowed areas. We want to add more contrast to this by mixing a darker shade of green using Viridian and Burnt Umber, and we're gonna apply this around the flowers and some parts of the greenery, but make sure to not fully cover them. Each of these flowers are arranged in baskets, so we want to kind of separate them by applying the darkest shade of green close to the next cluster. So you can see me painting from the lightest to the darkest, but you can also do this by layer as long as you can see your sketch or that you know how you want your composition to look like. The placements of the shades also depend on where your light source comes from. I've done several themes with storefronts as the main illustration or cover, so this time we are painting a view from the inside. So I mentioned about the light source, and here we have large door and windows, so the light is coming from the front and sides, so you can see we placed the brightest shade of green mostly on those areas. And obviously we painted the shadows more on the inner parts. Next, we are now painting the wooden door and windows using a mix of permanent yellow deep and burnt sienna. We start with a very light consistency for the initial layer, just blocking all the parts of the frame with a flat color. I chose an arched French door design, by the way. And when we are done with the first layer, we are going to do our second layer using burnt sienna to add more dimension. So we're applying this to the corners and edges and carefully blend around. This still needs a bit more sharpness, so we're gonna go and mix burnt umber and burnt sienna to create a darker shade, and we're going to go over the corners and edges again to add more shadows and details. And after that, we are painting the baskets using almost the same color, but we're just adding some more yellow ochre for the base and mix in some burnt umber for the shadows. Next is the floor that we're painting with white and yellow. And of course, there's going to be shadows coming from the door and the flowers. So we are using light brown to create the textures of the greenery and dark blue under the floor. Then we're also going to follow the shape of the frames using gray. There's still a lot of white spaces at this point, so let's say there's a tree outside. So we are painting a part of it around the arch of our door and outside the windows using the same colors we used for the leaves. And lastly, we are just filling this space here with something blurry like another store in the front using blue, so it complements the color of our interior. Okay, our cover painting is now done. Let's focus on the other side of the spread to create my March calendar. We are using a couple of these Ohuhu dual tip brush pen in green and brown color. We are writing the March title in a cursive font style, and we are going to connect both ends to create this frame with curvy corners using our brown pen. I don't have a name for this frame, but I just wanted something different instead of just doing straight lines. We are using a colored paper for the calendar itself. I decided to use some leftover colored papers from my previous setups. Then we are drawing the grid and writing the days and dates with our green pen. We still have some space on the top left corner, so let's fill that with a little painting of a hanging plant. We are using the same color palette to match our cover illustration, and likewise, we start with the flowers. Then we paint the leaves from the lightest shade to the darkest, forming the shadows around the flowers and around the bottom area. Lastly is our basket using burnt umber and burnt sienna. Alright, our cover and calendar for March are now done. Let's flip to the next empty spread to create some more monthly planning pages. But let's do another illustration here. I always see bikes full of flowers in spring themes, so why not add this element as well in my own style? We're gonna be painting a brick wall behind as well, and there are a bunch of flowers or flowering vines on top, so we paint them with a mix of white and June Brilliant and the colorful flowers on the bike. We will be adding more details to our flowers on the wall, but let's paint the leaves for the meantime using the same shades of green we used earlier. We're just doing the same technique for the ones on the bike, but for the ones on the wall, we are putting more shadows around the top, so we are applying more of the darkest green on this area, while the brightest shade towards the end. Then we can go back to our flowers to add this pinkish inner color and dark red details using our script liner brush. Also, I want to say it's okay if the painting looks messy. I find my paintings always look messy when you view them up close, but from a good distance, it looks great. Let's also paint the baskets here. Then we can now paint the bike itself. We are using permanent yellow deep and yellow gray on the seat, burnt umber on the wheels, and a grayish tone to the metal parts. The spokes or the lines inside the wheels are painted with a mix of burnt umber and black using our detail brush. When we are done with the foreground elements, we are now painting this window. We are going to follow the light and shadow of our flowering vines above, so we are using cobalt green on the bottom window panes, permanent green on the middle, and Viridian burnt umber mix on the top. Then our frame using an off-white color. Next are the bricks. Using yellow ochre and a bit of burnt umber, we are painting these rectangular shapes by row, and it's okay if they're not even in sizes. I think it looks better this way. So we are painting this whole length, and make sure to paint the bricks behind the bike as well. We also want to add the shadows using dark brown around the leaves and bike to add more depth. Okay, I have an interactive idea in mind for the habit tracker, like a flower bouquet, but I know the next layout will take me time to paint and make, so I just decided to do something simple by using the brick wall idea. So we are using another colored paper that we attach on the other side of the spread. The idea is for each tracker to have 7 brick patterns on each row. Each brick is a day, and it doesn't matter how long or short as long as there are 7 on each row. And there should be 6 rows for each habit that we want to track. I'm able to fit 5 trackers here, and I just labeled them on the side, which I wasn't able to record. Then on the empty spaces, we are just painting them using burnt sienna, and I also painted the parts of the calendar that doesn't have dates with yellow. If you'd like to label the days, you can do that too. But for me, I just left it blank and just automatically know that the first brick is Monday. Then I'll just track my habits by coloring each brick with a warm toned brush pen. I will be using the white spaces for my monthly focus and goals. This month, I also wanted to try listening more to audiobooks. I wanted to read physical books, but since I don't have a lot of time in my hands or the superpowers to look into different places at one time, listening to narration would be the best possible way while I work on something else. I've used a great app called Everend, which is a subscription-based service that gets you access to millions of ebooks and audiobooks all in one place. There's a free 30-day trial of Everend that lets you start reading premium titles instantly, so that's something you can make use of if you'd like to try it. The app was called Scribe before, so in case you couldn't find it, I will leave the download link on the video description, so feel free to check it out. I already saved some audiobooks here, and most of them is something that gives spring vibes. Lent season is also here, so I would love to listen to the narrated version of The Secrets of the Anointing written by Apostle Catherine Crick. Alright, we are now working on the next one. We are painting on a separate sheet of paper. This is just 120 GSM, so it's quite thinner than the notebook page. I couldn't see where I placed the 180 GSM one, but I think I can work on this, though I know it will bleed through. But that's not something I'm concerned about since I won't be using the backside later, so it's fine. So we are painting a large illustration of a flower shop storefront. We are basically doing the same techniques, but just in a different composition. We have a bunch of floral displays, and let's make them colorful. You can use other colors too, but using similar color palette will make the whole theme cohesive. The flowers also have bigger blooms, so it's better to add a bit more petal-like detail on the insides compared to the cover illustration. Then we can work on the greenery. Again, we start with our lightest shade of green. I think I mixed lemon yellow with this, so it looked brighter than our previous mix. We are adding more bigger leaves here too to make use of the spaces around. We are also painting this long garland of leaves on top of the store with both ends hanging on the sides. Then we just layer them again with 2 more shades of green to build shadows. And since we are already familiar with this step, I wanted to talk about something else. You might have seen or voted in the poll I posted recently about paintbrushes that I'll personally design. So a brand is actually very keen to collaborate with me on this, and I'm really excited with the idea since I love painting a lot in my journals, and most of you are here for the art too. So we believe it's something you can enjoy using and practice your painting skills with. But like most suppliers, there is a minimum quantity for production that needs to be met. So if you voted before or you just heard about it right now, we would really appreciate if you could visit the sign up link on the pinned comment below. Our goal is to reach 200 sign-ups who would be interested in getting the brush set collaboration. We only need your name and email address, and don't worry, it's only for this specific project. Thank you so much for signing up. Okay, back to our illustration. We are painting the windows with yellow and the exterior with blue. And we are using a bigger brush to cover the whole area easier and faster. If you remember, I painted a blurry building using blue on the cover. So let's just say this was it. It's a competitor across the street. I just wanted to make the exterior really simple, though I'd love to make it a bit intricate and vintage style looking, but I don't want to spend another day for that since March is fast approaching. It could also be March when I'm able to upload this video. But anyway, we are painting the doors with a mix of burnt sienna and a bit of purple to kind of mute the color a bit. And we are also using the same color to add these swirly details on the top of the windows. Then we are just gonna add more pigment to get a darker shade and apply this to create details on our doors. Paper is pretty warped at this point, so my lines are getting a bit wiggly, so I just tried to straighten them by going over them again. Then we're also painting some blurry flowers inside to fill the spaces. Well, what else can we find inside a flower shop but more flowers? And lastly is the floor. We are painting it using a mix of white, burnt umber, and black. I'm going to set aside this for some time and also put some heavy weight to flatten the paper while we work on setting up the functional spreads. So we're gonna skip a blank spread and create Dutch door pages. Starting from the next spread, I'm cutting around 8 pages on the right side using an X-Acto knife and a cutting board. A pair of scissors will do the job too. The amount of pages will depend on how much I need, so 5 of these spreads will be used for my ministry notes or church notes, since there are 5 Sundays in this month, and 4 spreads for my weeklies. Then on each side, we are painting these hanging signboards using white and brown mix for the inner shape and yellow ochre and brown for the frame. We are also painting a pot of flowers just below the signboards to add some more decoration. I will be having my ministry notes title on the left and we're writing that with the green fine liner tip, as well as the topic, scripture, and teachings on each Dutch door page. I also want to write a verse from Isaiah 61:11 that says, "For as the earth bursts with spring wildflowers, and as garden cascades with blossoms, so the Master, God, brings righteousness into full bloom and puts praise on display before the nations." I love that. So many of the scripture actually resonate with everything that is created. The other side of the spread is for my weekly tasks, and layout wise, I'm using the same simple layout from last month where I write the days in small font and the dates in bigger font size. Each day is divided by double lines, and I'll also have a little space for some notes. And after that, we're gonna cut like 5 millimeters or a dot space off the edges on both sides of the spread. Alright, now we can take the painting back and we're going to cut this in half. I know it can be hard to do that, but it's easier to paint on the whole thing before cutting instead of painting on two separate paper. So we cut this right in the middle. Then we're going to score and fold the sides of the cutouts a little bit, and we are using a ruler and a dried pen to help us do this neatly. After that, we can glue the backside of the little folds onto the edge of the page behind. So those are the one that we skipped earlier, and the other one will be the page behind the weekly tasks. Then we will both attach both blank pages together as well. You can also glue this on the side of the actual spread without cutting a thin space on the edge, but the purpose of this is just to secure the painting more in place since the fold is quite thin. And that finally completes our flower shop themed March 2025 bullet journal setup. And we are almost at the end of this video, so let's do a quick flip through of all the pages we did together. I hope you enjoyed this plan with me video and gave you some new ideas and inspiration, or maybe paintings to practice on your own monthly setup. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'll also try to make this available as a printable or digital download later, so make sure to join my website email list at tottocharizze.com. Also, please leave a like and let's stay connected by subscribing to this channel if you want to see more art and bullet journaling videos from me. Thank you so much for your time watching. Take care and have a wonderful month ahead. Love you all. Bye!